What if the very books, courses, and the things you are using to prepare for your biggest goals are actually the exact things guaranteeing you'll fail?
It's a terrifying thought, honestly.
Right. Well, welcome to this deep dive. Today we are tearing into a really highly charged, intensely motivational transcript.
Yeah, it's a speech by Ben Lionel Scott called You Have to Believe.
Exactly. And it argues that your quote-unquote preparation might just be a really sophisticated form of procrastination.
And, I think we should clarify right away. Our mission today isn't just to get you hyped up.
Oh, definitely not.
Because motivation on its own is effectively it's a temporary spike in your heart rate. It fades the minute you turn the audio off.
Yeah, you close the YouTube tab and it's just gone.
Right. So we are here to extract the actual structural, psychological blueprints for resilience that are hidden inside that intensity.
Because we know that you, the listener right now, you're a classic learner. You're constantly absorbing new information.
Always taking on new challenges.
Exactly. Whether you're prepping for a massive pivot in your career, launching a startup, or just trying to navigate a complex personal goal.
This deep dive is about uncovering the practical shifts in your thinking that are absolutely required when life, as it always does, throws a wrench into your carefully laid plans.
Yeah, the core premise of our source material today is pretty stark. It basically says ultimate success isn't about a lack of education.
Right.
It's not about a lack of money or your family background. It is entirely about a very specific kind of mental architecture.
It's a complete reframing of the internal narrative. And that reframing separates the people who actually finish the race from those who drop out at the very first sign of friction.
Which brings us to the first big point.
Okay.
Let's unpack this, because before anyone can achieve greatness, the source insists that you have to fundamentally change how you view hardship.
You have to manage your expectations.
Yes, because false expectations of an easy path are the very first things that will destroy a dream.
They absolutely will.
The text is brutally honest about this. It says verbatim that when you get going, you are going to get slapped around.
Oh, yeah.
You are going to get criticized.
Yeah.
People will conspire against you. You literally have to expect to get punched in the face.
That imagery is so intense. There's this incredibly vivid part in the text about being in round 4 of a fight, and your legs are just completely giving out.
Right, and you can barely stand.
And that physical exhaustion triggers a very specific psychological crisis.
What do you mean? Like a breakdown?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
When people hit that wall, they don't usually quit because the pain is physically unbearable. They quit because of cognitive dissonance. They think, well, if this is my true calling, if this is my destiny, why is it so incredibly hard?
Because society constantly sells us this myth of the flow state.
Exactly.
The idea that when you find your passion, everything will just effortlessly click into place.
Which is so dangerous.
It really is. It makes me think about, imagine stepping into a boxing ring, but for some reason you've convinced yourself you're showing up for a ballet.
That's a perfect analogy.
Right. If you step into a ring expecting Swan Lake, the sheer shock of that first hit is actually going to be worse than the physical pain of the glove itself.
Because you weren't braced for it.
Exactly. It's the completely mismatched expectation that knocks you out, not just the punch.
And what's fascinating here is how the source addresses the underlying psychology of those baseline expectations.
It tells us not to think it's strange when we face the fiery furnaces of this world.
Right. It explicitly states that the storm you're facing will not destroy you. It will refine you.
Which is such a fleap in perspective.
It is. There's this profound idea that we usually look for peace before the struggle. Or we try to find a path that is just inherently peaceful and devoid of conflict from day one.
But the speaker notes that true peace is found on the opposite end of trials and suffering.
Yes.
You have to go through it, not around it.
And by expecting those fiery furnaces, you fundamentally alter your biological threat response.
Okay, so the biology actually changes.
Yeah, think about it. When you expect the ballet, the punch makes your brain trigger a panic response. Your amygdala screams that you're in danger, and you ask, should I turn around and run?
Right, flight or fight. Mostly flight.
But when you step into the ring knowing it's a fight, you experience a challenge response instead.
Oh, I see. So the punch in the face doesn't mean you're on the wrong path.
No, it means you are officially in the arena. Life is testing your threshold to see how much you can take before you fold.
So expecting the struggle prevents you from interpreting necessary pain as, like, a universal stop sign.
Exactly. It's the difference between a trial that destroys your identity and a trial that simply refines your character.
And eventually the darkness dissipates,
Eh,
and you stand bolder and more confident.
that's the goal.
But a refined character is just the starting line, right?
Hmm.
If the struggle is a guaranteed given, how on earth do we actually prepare for it?
Well, according to our source, preparation isn't what most of us think it is.
Right. Which brings up a line in the transcript that actually made me stop and reread it.
The one about the books.
Yes, it says, you don't need another book. You don't need another course.
It's a bold claim.
And I really have to push back on this for a second on behalf of you, the listener. Wait, we are literally a deep dive show dedicated to learning.
Right.
You are listening to us right now to explore sources and gain knowledge. Why is this motivational speaker explicitly telling us to stop seeking out new books and new courses?
It's a brilliant provocation, I think. It's designed to expose a very common psychological trap.
Okay, what kind of trap?
Well, the speaker isn't attacking the concept of learning itself. They are attacking the use of preparation as a sophisticated form of procrastination.
Oh, wow. So we are biochemically tricking ourselves into feeling productive without doing any actual work.
That is the exact mechanism at play.
Seriously?
Yeah. When you buy a new book on entrepreneurship or you sign up for a masterclass on coding, your brain releases a surge of dopamine.
Just from buying the book.
Right. It's the exact same neurochemical reward you would get if you actually launched the business or built the app.
So you feel a profound sense of accomplishment, but your reality hasn't changed an inch.
Exactly. We hide behind the idea that we just need one more piece of data, one more certification before we are quote unquote ready to face that storm.
That is incredibly calling me out right now.
I think it calls all of us out. The source argues that the true requirement for surviving the punch in the face isn't external data. It's an internal shift.
Right, and it introduces this incredibly powerful concept of the stretched mind.
Yes, the stretched mind.
So when it talks about a stretched mind, it sounds like it's saying true capacity isn't about memorizing facts. It's about surviving a moment of acute discomfort, so your baseline of fear permanently shifts.
Yes, and the critical distinction there is internal versus external action.
Okay.
Expanding your capacity comes from stretching your psychological comfort zone. The text points out that once the mind is stretched, and it acknowledges the immense friction involved in stretching it, it can never go back to its original dimensions.
Wow, so it's a permanent upgrade.
Think of neuroplasticity. When you force yourself into a deeply uncomfortable, high-stakes situation, you are literally rewiring your neural pathways.
The more you actually do, the more your brain realizes you can do.
Exactly. Reading the book is just observing someone else's stretched mind.
Yeah, that's good.
But actually taking the hit, standing up to the voice inside your head that says, you can't do that, what if you lose everything, and taking the leap anyway, that is what actually stretches your mind.
You have to stand up for yourself inside your own head.
Which takes a massive investment of cognitive energy.
Because you're overriding your brain's default setting, which is self-preservation.
Right. Most people fall prey to their own internal negative conversation because agreeing with the fear is easier than fighting it.
So to stretch the mind, you have to look at that fear and say, I'm terrified of failing, but I am significantly more terrified of what happens if I never try.
That's the stretched mind in action.
But here's where it gets really interesting, though. A stretched mind is ultimately just potential energy.
True.
Like, if you sit on the couch with your newly expanded worldview, that mindset is useless.
It doesn't build anything.
Exactly. So how does the source force us to convert that potential energy into kinetic action?
By doing the terrifying math on our daily mortality.
Yes. The source breaks this down by mentioning the exact number of seconds we all get.
86,400 seconds in a day.
86,400 seconds. And the transcript uses this brilliant piece of wordplay that really stuck with me.
About being casual.
Yeah. It says that if you are casual about life-like, if you walk slow, talk slow, implement things slow, you're going to end up a casualty.
It's harsh, but it's memorable.
Very. The absolute separator between people who win and people who lose is the urgency they apply to those seconds. Now, I have to ask, so basically, taking a leisurely stroll to the coffee machine is an act of self-sabotage, according to this framework. Are we supposed to be like sprinting through the grocery store?
Well, maybe not sprinting to the coffee machine.
Good, because I'd spill it.
Right. But the broader point is about eliminating the friction of complacency. When the text warns against being casual, it's targeting the passive, reactive way most people drift through their days.
Just kind of letting things happen to them.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this urgency is the exact pivot point from being a victim to becoming a victor.
Oh, because the source explicitly tells the listener to stop talking victim talk.
Yes. Because complaining is literally a drain on your cognitive load.
It takes actual energy to complain.
It does, and it neurologically wires you to seek an external locus of control.
Okay, what does that mean in practice?
If you spend your time pointing out your difficult circumstances, blaming the economy, or talking about why a project is impossible, your brain stops looking for solutions.
Because it believes it has no agency.
Exactly. Victim talk is fundamentally a waste of those 86,400 seconds.
But it's so easy to complain. It's easy to be on the bottom. Like the transcript says, it doesn't take any effort or motivation to be a loser.
No, gravity does all the work for you.
But harnessing your will to pull yourself out of bed, to refuse to surrender to gravity, that requires an aggressive, non-casual stance.
The universe doesn't respond to casual preference. You can't just kind of want to change your life.
Right. The source tells us that the universe responds to the man or woman that refuses to be denied. It responds to absolute commitment.
Because if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy.
That sense of urgency, getting focused, getting in a hurry, it's the antidote to becoming a casualty of your own procrastination.
It is.
But let's be realistic for a second. That level of non-casual urgency every single day is exhausting.
Extremely.
What actually fuels that engine?
Well, it certainly isn't a logical spreadsheet of pros and cons.
No, and the source asserts exactly that. It says you win on emotion, not on logic. You win with your heart, not your head.
Which leads to that fascinating distinction between a job and a calling.
Right. A job is just what you get paid for, but a calling is what you are made for.
Exactly.
But I have to play devil's advocate here for a minute. Isn't relying entirely on that intense emotional savior complex exhausting? Like, if logic tells us to quit, doesn't ignoring logic completely make us reckless?
In what way?
Well, the text mentions surviving bankruptcy, business collapse, or a doctor saying, "You're terminal."
Right.
In our listeners' daily lives, that might look like getting passed over for a major promotion after years of work, or a startup failing to get funding. Logically, the odds of bouncing back from those things are terrifyingly low.
They are.
So doesn't logic demand that we just fold our cards and walk away?
Logic absolutely demands that you fold, and that is precisely why logic cannot be your primary engine if you want to achieve something extraordinary.
Wait, really? So you're supposed to ignore it?
Yes, because logic is a risk assessment tool. Its evolutionary purpose is to keep you safe, comfortable, and alive. It is not designed to make you great.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Greatness requires you to step so far outside of safety that logic will always scream at you to turn back. That's why the text leans heavily into what it calls comeback power.
The emotional anchor that overrides the logical risk assessment?
Exactly. The deeply emotional driver that defies the statistical odds. And the source ties this emotional fuel directly to legacy and identity.
Oh, this is the part about being the one.
Yes, the concept of being the one. Think about the gravity of that statement.
That's huge.
The text points out that if you meet a wealthy or successful family, at some point in their history, they were not wealthy. They were struggling.
But then someone stepped up.
Right. The one showed up. One person decided to absorb the struggle so the family tree would change forever.
In my family, I'm the one.
This creates an almost alter ego effect.
How so?
When you are just fighting for yourself, logic will easily convince you to quit when you get tired, because you can rationalize your own failure.
Right. You just say, well, I tried my best. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you make a fierce, emotional decision to fight for your family's legacy, to make your parents or your kids proud, you tap into a much deeper evolutionary drive.
You are fighting so you can look in the mirror and actually be proud of the person looking back at you, knowing you left absolutely nothing in the tank.
That emotional shift, deciding that you are going to be the lead character in the story of your life, provides a completely different fuel source.
Logic says the odds of this startup getting funded are less than 1%. Emotion says I am building this anyway because my family's future depends on my resilience.
That reframes everything.
It really does. Because the text explicitly says that at a certain level of success, it's not even about raw skill anymore. It's about stamina.
Yes, stamina.
It's about looking at the opposition, looking at the rejection emails and saying, you can't take me, I fought too long, I'm unbreakable now.
It's the 10th round, you have 2 more to go, and your emotional anchor is the only thing keeping your legs underneath you.
So what does this all mean for the long haul?
That's the big question.
We've established that we have to expect the punch in the face. We know we need the urgency of those 86,400 seconds, and we need the emotional calling of being the one.
Right.
But let's look at the reality of year 2, or year 3, or year 4, when that initial motivational fire naturally starts to fade and the daily grind really sets in.
The marathon phase.
Exactly. How do people survive the middle of the journey? This leads to what I think is honestly the most crucial insight of the entire deep dive.
You're talking about the concept of daily negotiation.
Yes. The source talks about negotiating the price.
It's such an important concept.
It points out that unsuccessful people are constantly negotiating the price they are paying for their dream. They wake up and say, man, I'm working too hard, or this isn't paying off fast enough, or I don't see my friends as much as I used to.
They put their ambition on a scale and weigh it against their comfort every single morning.
It makes me think of an analogy. Imagine walking into a high-end store every single day to look at the exact same expensive item.
Okay.
And every single day, you agonize over the price tag. You stare at it, you stress about it, you wonder if you should buy it, you complain to the cashier about how expensive it is.
We're exhausting yourself?
Exactly. You haven't even spent the cash yet, but you are slowly draining your wallet of energy just by agonizing over the transaction. The constant negotiation strips away all your power.
That is a perfect way to visualize the psychological concept of decision fatigue, or what researchers actually call ego depletion.
Ego depletion.
Yeah. The human brain consumes massive amounts of glucose and cognitive energy simply by making choices. The act of deciding is physically taxing.
So if you have to re-decide to commit to your dream every single morning,
If you wake up and ask yourself, is this goal worth being exhausted today? You are literally burning biological fuel just to get out of bed. You will eventually burn out before you ever do the actual work.
you're spending all your energy in the checkout line.
Exactly, which raises an important question. How do successful people handle that exact same massive price tag?
To just ignore it?
No, the source explains a profound behavioral difference. Successful people do not negotiate price. They negotiate worth.
Negotiating worth instead of price.
They look at the massive goal in front of them and they ask themselves one singular question at the very beginning of the journey. Could this be worth it to me to pay this price?
And once they decide,
The text says, once you decide it is worth it to win, it's worth it to be somebody. The negotiation stops. You decide once.
the negotiation stops, you never look at the price tag again.
Never. By refusing to constantly reevaluate the hardship, you stop stripping all your success, as the transcript puts it.
You stop draining your own cognitive energy.
You accept that it might be year 2, 3, or 4 before you get your big win. But because you already decided the destination was worth the pain, you no longer waste your 86,400 seconds complaining about the price of the ticket.
You just pay it, day in and day out.
And conserve your mental energy to actually cross the finish line.
That is the ultimate life hack for endurance.
Yeah.
You cannot be bought off by fatigue because the worth has already been settled in your mind.
It completely insulates you from the daily fluctuations of motivation.
Okay, let's pull all these psychological threads together. We started with the messy reality of building resilience.
Right.
First, you have to accept the punch in the face and realize that by expecting the fiery furnace, you turn a panic response into a challenge response.
The fire is there to refine you, not destroy you.
Second, you stop biochemically tricking yourself with the dopamine of preparation. You stop trying to find just one more book, and instead you focus on stretching your mind through acute discomfort so it never shrinks back.
Third, you recognize the stark mathematical urgency of your 86,400 seconds. You adopt an anti-casual, massive action approach, dropping all the victim talk that neurologically strips you of your agency.
Fourth, you override cold, risk-averse logic with the burning emotional calling of being the one who absorbs the struggle to change the family tree forever.
And finally, you stop the endless daily negotiation of the price of success to avoid decision fatigue.
You decide it's worth it, and you shut the negotiation down.
Which leaves you with a final, lingering thought to mull over today as you look at the landscape of your own life.
What is it?
Think about the biggest goal, Or the biggest struggle that you are facing right now? Are you draining your own energy by waking up every single day and renegotiating the price of your ambition?
No.
What would actually happen if today you simply decided the destination was worth it, stopped staring at the price tag, and finally allowed yourself to become unbreakable?
Because, as the source brilliantly reminds us, the last chapter to your life has not been written yet. You are still in the active process of transforming.
You really are.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. And remember, when you go back out there to build your life, the structural blueprint for resilience might be invisible, and it might be messy. But now you know exactly where to find it.